So a lot of people have been paying attention more and more to this time in your 20s, this transition to adulthood lately, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that recent grads are moving home more and more now to live with their parents instead of necessarily going out on their own, getting jobs, finding their own places. In fact, I think most studies show that about 85% of recent college grads this year will return home and live with their parents for a while. So it's definitely a widespread phenomenon. A lot of people think it has to do with economic factors. For example, you can't find a job, so you have to go home and live with your parents for a while. A lot of people also think this is a really bad thing, both from a financial perspective, kids being a burden on their parents for longer, parents maybe even having to delay their retirement for a little while. But the other sort of negative thing about it is from a developmental perspective. Is this delay in asserting your independence going to be detrimental to you somehow? And we worry about that because we're so used to thinking of the transition to adulthood as this linear thing. You graduate from school, you move out on your own, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and that's what we think is going to happen because that's what we've always thought is going to happen. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. I mean, we see people doing things completely out of order. For example, you might have a kid before you ever go to school, or you might just totally eliminate one of those steps. You might decide never to get married at all. So a lot of sociologists and psychologists have looked at this too, and they see it more as a lengthening of their transition into adulthood rather than sort of putting it off entirely. And they see it as kind of a good thing, and I tend to agree because it gives you time in your 20s to be able to try out different jobs, maybe even entirely different careers, maybe try out different romantic partners before you settle with the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And so it's actually more like a new life stage between adolescence and adulthood. And there's even a name for it now. A psychologist at Clark University in Massachusetts has coined the term emerging adulthood to kind of address this new life phase. And I feel like in 100 years or so, people might actually accept this or recognize it as a distinct life phase, or at least be a little more accepting of people in their 20s who take a little longer to figure things out. And I think if we can get to that place where we're more understanding of that longer road to adulthood, we might end up with adults who are more mature and more grounded.
For more on this and thousands of other topics, visit howstuffworks.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts free on iTunes.